sure you all know him. We got Peter McCormick, the What Bitcoin Did podcast. I was just on that one the other day, coming over as well. And finally, I'm sure no one has seen this man. This is Corey Hughes. He's the Bitcoin podcast Twitter handle. He's the man that takes all of my video podcasts and converts them into audio. All right, here, I have one more mic for you guys. And Thomas, it's all you.
All right. Thanks, Tone. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Welcome to Las Vegas. We all had a great time at the poker tournament last night. I went home, watched the last couple hands on TV. Very exciting. A lot of chips going into the middle. It's very cool. But we're all into Bitcoin, and some of the people in here got into Bitcoin a long time ago, and they've been doing media about it. So let's just try to ask them some questions about how they got into Bitcoin and what they think Bitcoin can do in the future. So, Vortex, you got into Bitcoin a while ago. How has Bitcoin changed your life, and how do you think Bitcoin can change the future?
Wow, a couple of deep questions. I guess we're going to start right out with without coffee. So let's see. Really, Bitcoin has changed. It's kind of interesting because there's a lot of paradoxes in Bitcoin because it's changed so much technologically, but the actual foundations of what Bitcoin is, right? This freedom of money, this people's money, this ability to have this additional financial system outside of the state running parallel that is an option of finally having an exit, right, of the current system. So we still have that. The foundations of Bitcoin are still there, but now we have more and more people all over the world joining into this open source project. We're talking amazing technologies like Lightning Network, Liquid Network. This is the order of magnitude scaling solutions that everybody was looking forward to Bitcoin back in the day when it was just a dream, right? When we were so excited that we got on one Yahoo News article. Let me tell you something. Reddit went crazy over that first article on Yahoo.
We used to do stories on Mad Bitcoins whenever anyone would accept Bitcoin. A restaurant in Hungary accepts Bitcoin. Oh, big news, big news.
It was huge. It was absolutely huge. So, so there's there's still a little bit of that around there in the community. But what I'm just loving to see is more and more people asking the question of why Bitcoin, why Bitcoin, and if more and more people try to ask themselves that question, then that will lead us down a very, very, very positive path. We have so much information out there now. I call this like the golden age of podcasts. You have my CryptoCast Network, World Crypto Network. We have amazing books from people like Safety and out there, the Bitcoin Standard. So now has never, ever been a better time to both get in, actually to understand the foundations of it, but also get in financially, because obviously we're in the bear market. It's the bottom of the price, right? So there's really never been a better time to get into Bitcoin, and I'm just so proud to be a part of this community, to see all these people travel from so far away. Some of you for Tone's first conference. It was really, really great. So I'm just so happy to be here, and hope you guys will come back to the next one.
All right, Peter, you've been traveling the world interviewing people about Bitcoin. How do you think Bitcoin can change the world?
I can only talk about it from my personal perspective, is that a few people know this, but I kind of got into Bitcoin when my mother was dying from cancer. We wanted to get her a treatment that was only available on the dark web, can only be bought with Bitcoin. And essentially we had to break the law to get that treatment. But when your mum's past, dying, you don't care really. So that was at the point I realized this is quite powerful, important thing, because we kind of bypass the rules that have been set in place by our governments to actually do something, a choice that we wanted to do for my mother. So that was the point I realized it was really important. And then it's very difficult then, because I feel like a bit of a fraud in a room full of so many smart people, because I've spent 2 years trying to learn more, and the more I learn about it, the more I realize I don't learn. And I've suddenly been exposed to all things I didn't exist, like reading Safe's book, different forms of economics that I didn't even know exist, that I wasn't even taught at school. So I would say from a personal perspective, I'm still too early to really answer that question articulately, because I think I've still got personally a lot to learn. All I know is that we live in a really weird, crazy world where lots of bad people do really shitty things to people, and it seems around Bitcoin we have a movement of people kind of starting to reject ideas and starting to say, well, we can do things our way and you can't stop us. And I think that's kind of pretty cool, really.
Powerful.
Yeah, it really is adult money. You have to hold it. If you lose it, it's gone. And if you want to buy anything, you can buy anything with it. The government can't put any rules on it. No one can stop you spending it, and no one can confiscate it from you. It's unconfiscatable.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, that's good. Corey, you started off doing some Bitcoin podcasts. How has Bitcoin changed your life? How do you think it could change the world in the future?
Well, I'm going to hijack the question a little bit because I never professed to be a Bitcoin expert. That's why you rarely see me on any YouTube broadcast. My expertise is in media and podcasting. And when I got involved with the World Crypto Network about 2 years ago, I found that there were experts on YouTube who had an expertise in a particular field, but they were not necessarily media experts. And I found that they really needed some sort of assistance, guidance on best practices and how to grow a media network. And so I got involved primarily because of two people in general, Max Kaiser and this man right here on the end, Thomas Hunt. And most people probably don't know this, but Thomas has the longest running YouTube crypto channel that there is. He gave start to people like Andreas Antonopoulos and Vinny Lingham, even Vitalik, believe it or not. So in my opinion,
Myself
guys like,
included, of course.
guys like Thomas, to me, are the forefathers of this entire crypto media space. And I believe that guys like them need to be recognized for their work.
All right, thank you, Corey. Vortex, you've interviewed a lot of people on the Bitcoin News Show. Who's the biggest person for you that you've interviewed, and who would you like to interview in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the show that we have is called the Bitcoin News Show, for those that don't know. It is a weekly panel show where I try to bring on people that are way, way smarter than me. And that's the whole point, is that you can always easily find somebody in this space that's smarter than you. And it's so beautiful because then you start following them right on Twitter, join the whole crypto Twitter craze, follow the people that they start following, and so then you can really start seeing the ideas really expand. So I mean, I've interviewed almost every major sort of Bitcoin person in the entire space. There's been some amazing greats, Tour de Meester on there. I haven't had Andreas yet, but I try to get people that are building things in the space, people that are actually doing things in the space. I try to keep it to around an hour to make sure that we don't waste too many people's time. I want to keep it concise, but really. What I've kind of learned is that everybody still has that same passion. Everybody who is in Bitcoin, everybody who's building something, they all think in this long term. They all think 10, 20, 30, 40 years. It all starts changing their entire time preference to where they start thinking about their children's children. And that's really like this common thread that we find, is this ability to be able to store wealth for your children and your children's children. I mean, that's just this main thing, in addition, of course, being unconfiscatable, this digital store of value that is unconfiscatable. But you just see the passion behind these people over and over again, and I really encourage people to check it out, the CryptoCast Network, because there are some of these people working really, really hard in this space to bring the future, and some of them have like 100 followers. I feel so bad because I have a few more followers, and these people are doing so many greater things than me, so I just try to get some of their stories out there, and hopefully we're doing that. Hopefully you guys learn something from that, and we're just going to keep going and trying to get more and more people from the space that are really, really working hard to build the evolution and the foundation and the rails of this new financial system. We're trying to get their stories out there.
It is really amazing the way Bitcoin can change your worldview. I was talking to someone at the conference yesterday, and they said they were never interested in saving before. They just never had that saving gene. Then they got into Bitcoin. They started to figure out how there's less and less of them all the time. Price looks pretty good on a long-term spectrum, and they started to save money. So it really can change your outlook and your attitude. So Peter, the same question. You've been traveling the world. Who have you interviewed that you thought was really good? Who would you still like to interview?
I think my favorite interview was the first interview I did with Lynn Ulbrich, because whilst it's a Bitcoin show, I don't even know if we talked about Bitcoin in the show. And yeah, it's probably one of the most important stories in the history of Bitcoin. And so I really enjoyed that, and it was a real challenge as an interviewer to try and talk about quite a personal subject. And it's just quite an important interview for me in the past. So that's probably the most important one I think I've ever done. In terms of who I'd like to interview, this is so many people, it's really hard to pick. What I would say is that there's a lot of podcasts out there, and there's a lot of people who want to be interviewed, and most of the people are in here. You've got Jimmy, Safe, Vortex himself, and they're getting hassled all the time, yet they keep doing it. They keep coming on the shows, they keep giving people time, and I haven't really found it very hard to get people. I think that's one of the great things about the community, because you've got to remember, if they're giving up an hour, 2 hours of their time unpaid to help you with what you're doing, But if I did have to pick, I've actually always wanted to, I don't know if he's in the room or back there, but interview Peter Todd. And I've been like asking this weekend. And funnily enough, I was watching one of your interviews with him this morning to try and prepare. So that was quite funny. And the other person I've always really wanted to interview, which I've now got confirmed, which I'm doing on Thursday, I think, is Whitfield Diffie. Because there's a lot of interviews which are the same, like a lot of people getting the same interviews. So one of the things I try and do is try and sometimes get different people and that haven't been talked to or might have a different perspective, just to freshen it up. And also because the technical stuff's really hard, and I'm not very good technically, and like I can leave that to you guys. I think there's kind of some other stories out there, but yeah, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, Peter Todd's a great interview because he'll challenge your questions. If you say anything scientifically wrong, he'll call you on it, no matter how small. So he's fun to talk to. Also, Lynn Albright just had such a tough time with Ross because basically he was a Boy Scout. He was an Eagle Scout, and everything seemed fine. Then all of a sudden she finds out he's secretly been allegedly running the Silk Road. So it's really tough what happened to her, and it's great to see her strength as she continues to support her son and ask for him to be freed. It's pretty much down to a presidential pardon now. So we're going to have to see the end of the drug war, a major shift of people's attitudes, and then it might be possible, but it's still very much a long shot. So Corey, there's a big do-it-yourself type attitude in Bitcoin and YouTube. Anyone can program it, anyone, it's open source. What would you say to the YouTubers at home, maybe future podcasters? What should they do? How should they get started in Bitcoin?
That's a really hard question for me to answer because the single biggest criticism I have of the crypto media space is that anybody with a camera and a YouTube account can hop on YouTube and profess to be an expert, and 99% of the space just isn't. That's why I was kind of attracted to working with real experts, guys like Tone and Jimmy and Thomas and Vortex. So the one thing that I would say is that if you're going to get on YouTube and start to tell people about Bitcoin, you really should have a solid understanding of what you're talking about, and you should have a background that backs up what you profess to know.
I've definitely seen a lot of that. Everyone knows clickbait rules on the internet, pictures of pretty girls, all caps headlines. You won't believe how much money I made on this altcoin. They get a lot of views. They get a lot of comments. But you don't really learn anything there. You learn the same thing every time, that they've bought a lot of that altcoin, and they're really hoping that you could take it off their hands for more. That seems pretty recurring theme. But Jeff, how would you tell new people, how should they get into Bitcoin? Where should they start?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. All the ICO people pay more.
They do, and they have money to sponsor big conferences and to pay bloggers, and they have a lot of paid media. It's a surprise. It's very strange. Yeah?
They have slightly more views than us, too. It's crazy.
It's almost as if you could buy those views and you could buy those Twitter followers, and everything you see on the internet might not be so real. I wonder that sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, it really is tough for new people coming into the space now. I mean, because look, I mean, we have to explain to them the difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash sometimes. So, let alone the thousands of other currencies, right? So it really is a tough time to kind of come in to the space in that perspective. But as I said earlier, we're in the information age now, right? We have the sum of human knowledge at our fingertips. We have amazing people doing amazing podcasts, like some of the people up here. And so there still is never been a better opportunity to come in. And what I tell people is, because a lot of times developers get a lot of praise in the space, and I'm probably a little bit guilty of doing that a bit on Twitter as well. But there's just so many things that Bitcoin touches. Money touches everything, right? So Bitcoin absolutely eventually will touch everything. So whatever you do, so if you're a graphic designer, maybe do some graphic designs for Bitcoin or do some graphic designs about Bitcoin. We have amazing artists in the space like Crypto Graffiti, pushing the space forward, actually pushing the boundaries of the technology. I mean, we have an artist, if you haven't seen this recent story, pushing the boundaries of technology where he put a painting on sale, one of his art pieces on sale, and he tried to sell it to the lowest, absolute lowest bidder to see how low of a transaction we can get on Lightning. And it ended up being, 8 or 9 zeros. It was ridiculous. It was like a half a Satoshi. It was crazy. So he proved that you could have micro transactions, and this can be an actual real thing. So we did that. He did that with art. And so whatever you do, I tell people, just do it with Bitcoin. It's time giving back. We see people create amazing conferences like this. We see Tone sort of giving back to the community with a conference like this, the Unconfiscatable conference. We see people try to support some core developers. We see people try to give back to the space, and we need more of it. We need more of it because, like I said, the ICO people, they do pay more. So we really do appreciate all the donations and things like that for the open source projects like BTC Pay Server. He's got a couple fundraising things going on right now, so we appreciate donations to that, and donations to the YouTube channels across the board. Everybody, like I say, it is a golden age for podcasts right now, so let's try to support that with Bitcoin. But really, to get into the space, just whatever you do, do it with Bitcoin. The opportunities are limitless because this is the beginning. We are very, very, as I try to tell people, very early days. I mean, we really are the internet circa 1992. And so there is plenty of space, plenty of opportunity, plenty of billion-dollar companies to be made still. So whatever you do, just do it with Bitcoin.
There's this great old video called Epic 2014, and it talks about how this is the best of times, and it's also the worst of times. And that when you go out on the internet, you can aspire, and you could read all the scientific knowledge, and you could learn about the history of the world, and all the information is at your fingertips. Or you could just read a bunch of celebrity gossip. It'll be the best possible or the worst possible, but you have to make the choice. And if you don't make a choice, you're probably going to accidentally click on celebrity gossip, and you're going to fall down that hole. So you really do have to make a choice to follow educational content and to support things that you want to see the world like, because if you just blindly follow, then that's all you're going to get is gossip. Peter, what would you suggest to YouTubers at home? How could they get started in Bitcoin?
You just get started. You just you just pick up a camera.
No one has to give you permission, because
No,
I was told that a
just
scarecrow had to give me permission before I could make any YouTube videos.
Just click the button.
I mean, there's loads of helpful resources out there. My biggest help was another podcaster helping me and giving me the advice. I watched the Pat Flynn educational series on how to do podcasting. But you just need to get out there and start just producing content. I don't worry so much about people putting out maybe nonsense ideas like yourself, because I think the free flow of ideas allows things to be debated and we learn from it. Like by having so much publicity and discussion about nonsense ICOs and shitcoins, I think we've all got to that point where we realize it's all a bunch of nonsense. Nobody's really going to be buying this. I heard about Polkadot maybe doing an ICO today, but ICOs are kind of dead, and I think it's because the information's out there. So that worries me less. But I think if you want to do it, you just got to get out there and do it. Also, reach out and ask for help. I've helped, I think, 3 people now launch a podcast, and most people are willing to pay it forward. And
My DMs are always open.
yeah, my DMs are always open. You get some weird stuff. But yeah, you just reach out to somebody, ask for some help. There is plenty of stuff out there. I think it'd be nice for people to maybe find some different angles. I think it'd be really good if someone did a big approach on usability and UX, because I think that's seriously under serviced in our area. But no, just get out there and make some content. If people like it, it will grow. And if you reach out to someone like me or Vortex, we'll probably help you. So yeah.
As long as you like it, as long as you like it, I promise you there will be somebody else. As far as this goes to all content creators, all creative fields. If you like what you like, then I guarantee you somebody else will like it too. Somebody else will appreciate the time and the passion, because people can see it. Not everybody is an engineer, not everybody is an artist, not everybody is a music producer, but we can tell the difference between a cheesy song and a good song, right? So just whatever you do, if you put the passion into it, people will find it and they will see it and they will love it.
One other thing, a good piece of advice someone gave, and I can't remember who it was, it might have been Melton, but somebody said just start writing and spend a year writing. And in that period of time, you're going to learn so much about content and the area you're writing about, but just start writing. And I think that's a really good piece of advice. I did it. I've deleted most of it because you go back and you read it, you're like, what the fuck did I think there? But it's a good exercise to go through because you're putting yourself out there publicly. Google's going to index it. People are going to come and find the content. So I think that's another good thing people can do.
That is definitely the key to writing. They say you have to write 100 bad short stories before you can write a good one. And no one believes that. Everyone wants to write a good one the first time, but it's those 100 bad ones that teach you how to keep going and to eventually make a good one. I would say for the people at home, try to get the technicals right. I know everyone thinks they can just make a show on their iPhone, but if you're in a loud room, if there's no lights, if no one can hear you, that's going to be a problem. And they're going to let you know about it in the comments. The YouTube people love to tell you about echoes or little squeaky noises or whatever it is. You're going to hear it right away. So do your best the first time. Try to fix it the second time. Be humble. The internet's going to correct your mistakes. There's someone out there that knows more than you. I know it's shocking, but that's a big one. And then I'd also say tell it from your point of view, because I can speak to what I think of as my people, computer geeks, and we talk about Star Trek and we talk about Bitcoin. So we're pretty much there. but you can speak to your people. There's no one out there reaching your community talking about Bitcoin the way that you would talk about it. So that's what I would suggest. Just get started, like the guys said. I think we're going to go ahead and end the panel a little early, maybe give Tone 10 minutes back, try to get the schedule on topic again. So, Tone, if you're ready for the next panel. Thank you. And thank the guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
Peter and Corey and Vortex. Thanks so much.
Oh.